Hey everybody, and welcome to our Captain America Civil War spoiler-heavy review.
Yay!
If you have not seen Captain America Civil War, what the hell are you doing watching this video? It says spoilers in the title.
Unless you're one of those people.
Unless you're one of those people that doesn't care about that, in which case, welcome.
Yeah.
We will be spoiling everything in Captain America Civil War. We're going to be reviewing the movie as if you've seen it. So if you haven't seen it, stop watching.
Yeah.
Bookmark this page, come back when you've seen the movie, and seriously, go see the movie. Why haven't you seen it already? It's amazing. Alright, so we already have our non-spoiler review on the channel.
Yeah.
So if you've watched that, you already know we loved this movie. But let's get into it. Let's talk about some spoilery stuff. Who wants to go first?
Jeremy does.
Jeremy does. Okay.
Because you have the cap shield.
Great. I think I'll start with what I liked about this movie. I'm gonna go positives first.
Sure.
Everything. Frankly, no. This is Marvel's best movie to date. By I think quite a margin.
Agreed.
The things that we will get into later are so nitpicky. But wow, this movie's incredible. From the action scenes, which for me, my favorite part, if you can call it that, is the fight sequences. The actual hand-to-hand show of the combat is going to be I love that kind of stuff. So seeing it done well and seeing it done well on a big screen, blown up with these characters learning how to use their abilities I mean, Falcon's, that opening scene with that opening fight with Crossbones and Falcon learning how to use his wings.
More than just wings.
Is like more than just flying around and more than just like having a little drone bot follow.
Using
the
but
shield
as a
part?
shield and as a, like blue.
Speaking of the little drone, Red Wing, how great was
that?
Oh my God.
It was great.
And like Cat was like, I'm not
not
going to
calling it.
acknowledge
No,
it.
I
It's
think
not a
that
thing.
Black Widow.
Yeah.
Black Widow was
right,
I'm not
sorry.
thanking him.
Yeah.
Or I'm not thanking it.
But
His name's Red Wing.
Right.
It was great. I loved it.
Yeah, and I loved the fact that all of these superheroes are training in what I'm going to deem the off-season, which is just...
Right.
I've been watching a lot of the NBA Finals. No, but it's when we're not seeing them, you can see that they're doing stuff. You can see that Falcon is clearly gone from this kind of like B-rate Avenger to... He can hold his own, and he can do all this stuff.
Yeah.
Because he has learned from even the Ant-Man fight in Ant-Man to now, he's learning how to use his tools to be a superhero, not just anybody can put on these wings and fly around.
Right. Yeah.
Once they get the handle
not
of
just
it.
not just like he's an excellent marksman who happens to have gotten the suit and lucky him, but it could have been anybody in the army. It's like now it's gotta be him.
It's Falcon, It's not just a guy with a cool backpack.
Yeah.
Just like Tony Stark is Iron Man.
Right.
Sam Wilson is Falcon.
Yeah, and that's and same thing happens with Black Widow. She's always been cool and she's always been
Especially
adapting.
with the Russo brothers.
But even now in this, you can see she's just so confident in her like character abilities to take down these people, to take down Crossbones, to go up in the airport scene, to go up against super powered individuals. But she has trained and she knows what she's doing. And it's a really cool distinction that they also all have different fighting styles.
Yeah. Just a little bit ago, the Russos were talking about how the directors of John Wick were serving as second unit directors for this.
Phenomenal
Which
choice.
I see.
Yeah, now that I know that, all of the amazing action in this movie makes so much more sense.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
And it's grounded and it's
I mean, just going off of that, Scarlet Witch's powers, when she like contains the smoke,
or when she
I
breaks down
I was
vision.
like, what?
Yeah.
That
She's
whole
got her powers,
right, and she's like learning how to and
taking Vision down and just down into the earth.
Yeah, that whole beginning scene though, with most of the new Avengers,
right?
Vision and War Machine weren't there, but Scarlet Witch and Widow and Cap and Falcon taking down Crossbones in Nigeria, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Yes.
That was such a great scene, and I'm a little disappointed that Crossbones was wasted like he was.
Yeah, he felt very wasted.
Because he was such a cool villain in Winter Soldier.
Right.
And he was set up to be like this awesome guy with a grudge against Captain America.
Right.
And then they killed him in the first
it's
scene
like,
we ever see him as Crossbones.
And the trailers is like, it's that classic misdirection of, we're going to show this in the trailer so you go, and the same thing happened with like War Machine getting shot down. Right. It's like, we're going to show it in the trailers so you have these expectations, then we're going to invert them. And it was except that's an expectation I wanted to see play out. Yeah.
I'm not really complaining because I think that it served the movie to have that happen.
Yes.
But it's just a little disappointing because Frank Grillo's such a good actor.
Well, I think one of the positive about it, though, is that, like, they did accomplish something.
Oh, yeah.
So I think it helps the overall story arc of Civil War, but I totally see where you're coming from.
Yeah. I'm not saying that he shouldn't have been in this movie. I'm just saying I'm a little sad to see him go because Frank Grillo played Crossbones so well.
Right. Yeah, I see.
Addie, what was your favorite part?
I mean, like, it's me the same, like, my favorite character, like, anytime he was in there, Spider-Man, his one scene when he was Peter Parker in his apartment was just amazing. That he held his own with Robert Downey Jr., that they were just throwing it back at each other.
Don't tell Aunt May.
Yeah, like, literally every line
and Marissa Tomei.
It
was great.
She looked hot.
And I loved the fact that they called it out. And he was like, because we sat there, and I think our whole audience was like, wait a second, that's Aunt May. She's
but it makes
smoking.
Sense.
Well, and then
the thing
Tony's just like getting it on, and you're like, yep, love it.
I might have mentioned this in our non-spoiler review, but the thing with Aunt May is that Rosemary Harris played Aunt May so well in the Raimi Spider-Man movies. Yeah. That I think in order to do it, they needed to go a completely new direction.
Yeah.
And making her young, somebody that Tony could flirt with and comment about how hot she was. I think it was a smart move.
And the other thing is, I think making Spider-Man a 19-year-old allows you to make Marissa Tomei
so, like,
as
over the next
mid-30s.
Like, however many years, she's
also
get
like,
older.
Yeah. It's also like she's not a mom.
What is she? She's in her like mid-40s, right?
Yeah, she's in her 40s.
Yeah. Is she really?
Mm-hmm. She looks good for her age.
She looks amazing for her age.
I would say she's like, maybe, sure.
No, I know she's in her 40s. I just don't know if she's in mid or late 40s.
She also looks especially good in the movie.
That's true.
Right.
This is true.
But, I mean, the other thing is, remember, she's his aunt.
Yes.
She should be roughly the same age as his parents.
Never understood watching the movies and, like, even in, like, comics when she's, like, super old. I just, like, in my, like, little mind, I was like,
I mean...
And, like, comparing to my family, I'm like...
I think. See, my dad's sister.
Oh, see, my parents are super young.
Right. Yeah. I think it just depends.
I mean, I think if she wasn't old lady, like you could see it, but to have an actress play her Aunt May who could be Spider-Man's grandmother,
right?
It's like it doesn't necessarily make sense unless you make her his like great aunt, or
right?
But that was like my favorite part in watching it. Because everyone was so excited, we definitely missed jokes, so I can't wait to watch it.
Like, we missed a lot of Spider-Man jokes.
I can't wait to, because it was just literally every line was perfect. When he like pulls out his like he grabs his makeshift suit,
his underoos.
Yeah, like it was so amazing, and how like ashamed he was of it, like that. Like,
or how
Tony Stark was seeing it, and he was like, no.
Right, when Tony first grabs it and he like throws it in the dirty wash super quick.
Or how he's like embarrassed of his name.
Yeah.
Yeah, Spider Boy.
What are you, Spider Boy? Spiderling? Spider-Man.
Yeah. No, and Tom Holland is like, I'm so excited for Homecoming. He's perfect.
But on the other hand, my other favorite part is when he is Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Because at least it's a little bit more spaced out, because it's not just, the whole scene isn't about, the airport fight isn't just about him, so we like can cut back and forth. Mm-hmm. So I heard more of his little jokes, but...
Right. Great. It was, he's incredible. Like, perfect.
He was so good. And I just can't wait for the movie.
I completely agree with both of you. Just for the sake of saying something different than you guys in terms of...
for your favorite part?
I mean, this is a Captain America movie. I feel like we should mention Captain America.
Yeah. He was so good. It was very much a movie about him. It's just when you introduce Spider-Man and Black Panther, it's just
don't get me started on Black Panther.
Black Panther was phenomenal as well. But I think Captain America in this movie... I was reading old blog posts the other day, back in 2010, 2009.
Oh, I saw you read.
Yeah. Right when Evans was getting cast, like when the news of a Captain America movie had been announced. And everybody just thought it was the most ridiculous thing in the world. who would want a Captain America movie that was such a cheesy hero?
Right.
It would never
Right.
work. It would be campy and awful. And now, Captain America is probably my favorite hero in the MCU.
Yeah.
Oof.
He's up there, at least.
He's up there.
Spider-Man, I'm sorry.
Sure, but what I'm saying is, Chris Evans plays this character, and the writers and directors of the different Captain America movies write and direct this character in a way that actually makes us care about him.
Yeah.
They did a really good job.
I mean, they do that, and the thing is, it's not just him; it's every character.
It's everybody, but Captain America specifically in this movie. I mean, he's somebody who's just his life has been filled with loss.
Yeah,
and that
they
scene
really
when he is a pallbearer at Peggy's funeral.
Yeah,
and you see, I mean, when you think about it, we actually haven't seen Captain America show that much emotion ever.
Yeah,
he's been kind of happy but still like a little stoic,
right?
Or he's been reserved but a little stoic. I mean, he's not like Henry Cavill's Superman or anything. He has emotions, but he is not an overly emotional guy.
Right.
Why would he be? He grew up in the early 20th century. But to see him crying as he's carrying Peggy's casket, I thought that was phenomenal. And that the eulogy that Sharon gave.
Yeah.
That is a line from the comics. That Cap gives. The "No, you move" line. I mean, it was ripped from the comics. And when Cap says it in the comics, it works. But the way the MCU Cap is, it never ever would have worked for this version of Cap. So having Sharon say it, it's totally something Peggy
fantastic.
would have said. Yeah. And the way they actually got to use that line and have it be a motivator for Captain America to decide to do what he felt was right, no matter the cost.
Yeah.
I thought it was great. And also, something that the comics just completely failed to do, you really felt both sides of this. I mean, I mentioned this before. I went in as a Team Cap supporter. I left a Team Iron Man supporter. I really started thinking about it. If the Avengers were real, they are American based. They're not all American citizens, but not all of them are humans even.
Yeah, it's
but they're based in America. And they go and interfere in Nigeria without being sent by the U.S., without being invited by Nigeria, just completely ignoring borders.
Yeah.
And they intervene in this incident, and innocent people die directly because of Scarlet Witch.
Yeah.
That's not okay.
Yeah.
And I totally get where Cap's coming from, but where Tony's coming... And the other thing is, Tony's not just a dick saying, I'm mad at you.
Right.
He's saying either we go along with them now, or we won't have a choice in the future. We'll have to stop this.
So let's do it now and have a little bit of agency.
Yeah, exactly. Let's do this while we still have some clout, while we still can save ourselves a little bit. And I agree with him. He's right. Granted, in this particular case, the government would have been wrong in terms of arresting or killing Winter Soldier. But just as a philosophy, I'm completely on board with Tony.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, before you went off into that, when we were talking about Cap still, I love one of the moments that I just thought was one of the funniest freaking things they did is when Cap and Sharon kiss. And it cuts to Falcon and Bucky just like total bro moment. And I just you didn't see it coming, but it fit so perfectly, and it was just...
And we talked about this in our non-spoilers review. The tone of this movie,
it was perfectly balanced,
just between the lighthearted moments to the more serious stuff. To Robert Downey Jr.'s acting in this was incredible. I noticed it more with Robert Downey Jr. To be fair. Chris Evans was Captain America and a little stoic and a little and Robert Downey Jr. had this arc that we haven't seen since probably the first Iron Man.
Well, I mean, Iron Man was completing his arc that he's been he started in the first Iron Man movie.
And this is the thing is I think the character of Iron Man gives RDJ more to do than the character of Captain America gives for Chris Evans. Not the point though; they're both phenomenal. I forgot what I was saying.
I could tell. That's why I was going to start saying something else. But, I mean, going back to the Bucky and Falcon, Just they have like
their dynamic was great.
Great little things. Like they start off kind of like fighting for like Cap's not approval, but
attention.
Like I'm his like right hand man, not you type feel.
All right, so before we get into our negatives with this movie, and we do have a couple,
but they're very.
Let's talk about the airport scene.
I was going to talk about Black Panther.
We'll get there near the end.
Great.
I mean, Black Panther was great. All the characters were great.
Yeah.
But I am not exaggerating when I say that airport fight scene was, if not the best fight scene ever, certainly the best fight scene ever to appear in a superhero movie.
I loved every part of it.
Every second of it was...
showed off so
I will
much.
give you the superhero one. I will not... I don't think I can concede best fight scene ever.
Okay, look, it's a big claim. I've thought about it. I can't think of one that's better.
I mean, there's a couple in Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, I just think of Legolas. I like Legolas.
There's a couple in John Wick. There's a couple in The Raid, both 1 and 2. Are just
I'll
fantastic.
give you John Wick and The Raid in terms of choreography, but in terms of
Old
scale,
Boy.
In terms of scale, though,
Old Boy's tracking hall scene.
All great. I'm not saying in terms of choreography and cinematography, yes, there are absolutely better. But in terms of thrilling fight scenes on that scale, Lord of the Rings, you're right. Lord of the Rings is better. Lord of the Rings is better. But in terms of a fight scene on that scale,
I think within the last couple of years, definitely.
Yeah.
And it's the one that is just like that scene. I think all of us, our collective minds, just the whole theater was just like jaws slowly dropping.
For so long, and it was awesome.
But
it
not in the like
bad way. It was so long and so perfect. Like I mean, like there are so many little things I loved in it. When Spider-Man's like crawling on Giant Man, and like
Giant
literally
Man.
like a bug though.
Right.
He wasn't just crawling like a human. Like it was bug-like, and I was like, that is such an awesome image that I now have seen with my eyes.
Yeah. And again, things about learning how to use your powers. Paul Rudd going from Ant-Man to Giant Man was fantastic. And I love the fact that he was just like, guys, get ready.
If this tears me in half, go on without me.
And he was just like, let's go.
Yeah.
Paul Rudd stole some of that
He was
scene.
very much the audience, you know?
Yeah.
He was like the one normal guy there that you could connect with.
well,
that was just like, wow, there
like
are so many awesome people around me. And
I think that the newbies on each team, Spider-Man on team Iron Man and Ant-Man on team Cap, I think they both served their role really, really well.
Yeah.
Of somebody who weren't necessarily personally, they didn't have personal stakes in the fight.
Right.
But they were on their side, they were willing to fight. And that's where that levity came from, because it would have been weird and off-putting coming from anybody else.
And I love how different they are too. Like, I mean, Ant-Man's a dad.
Right.
Peter Parker is
a teenager.
Is a kid.
A kid in high school. On different coasts too.
And I love the character building of this film was phenomenally well done.
Agreed.
For every single one of them. And this is where I'm going to go into my little Black Panther thing.
Okay.
Because Black Panther in this movie, as much I know you love Spider-Man, and I think a lot of people are going to come out of this saying Spider-Man is their favorite. For me, seeing Black Panther and Chadwick Boseman, just the amount of, I don't know if this is a word, regality, whatever, charisma that he has when he stepped up and was like, the scene after his dad dies and he's like, I'm gonna go find the Winter Soldier, get out of my way. And you're just like, I'm not sure I agree with you killing him, but wow, this is so clearly conviction that you need. And I feel like to take Marvel to the next level, he is exactly what they needed.
Yeah.
He's, for the King of Wakanda, for having all the vibranium, for having his powers and his claws and everything. That incarnation of Black Panther is absolutely perfect for Marvel.
Yeah, I mean, I think the interesting thing about Black Panther as a character is that he is both a warrior and a king.
Yes.
And Thor is the only other character that might fill that role.
Right, but
it's shown that he can't.
Right.
When he's being a warrior, when he's being a hero and an Avenger, he can't be king of Asgard.
Yeah.
Well, we got Black Panther.
Black Panther is the one who can do both.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's such an interesting, awesome character. And yeah, Chadwick Boseman plays it so well.
I can't wait to see them both talk now. Thor
and
Black
Panther,
because they're so regal.
Yeah.
but one's like better than the other in like his like duty to his like land.
Country.
One of the best.
Asgard's not a country.
Yeah,
That's why
whatever,
I said land.
Whatever.
One of the best moments
Planet.
during the airport fight scene that didn't come from Spider-Man or Ant-Man was when Clint and Black Panther start fighting, and Hawkeye's just like, I don't think we've officially met yet.
Yeah,
I'm Clint,
Yeah.
and Black Panther just goes, I don't care.
Yeah.
And then I mean, it's awesome.
One of my favorite scenes with Black Panther is when he approaches Zemo at the end.
Yeah.
I'm going to talk a lot about Zemo.
I saw it and I was like, he's not gonna kill him because he's gonna learn his lesson and not want to kill people, which he should have. I mean, like, I'm happy that Zemo's not dead, but like in their world, he should have killed him because Zemo's gonna come back and come with a harder hit.
When Zemo held the gun, I mean, as soon as Black Panther said that he wasn't going to kill Zemo, I'm like, oh shit, Zemo's going to kill himself. It's going to be another Marvel movie.
Oh no, I did not.
Glad he didn't.
But yeah, I mean, the fact that he's not dead, like I said, we'll talk about Zemo in a little bit because I have a lot to say about him.
Oh, I guess Maria Hill not being in it was...
Yeah. That was there.
Black Widow being the turncloak.
Yeah.
But it made sense.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, also Scarlet Witch kind of... Oh no, she's always on Captain's side.
Yeah.
Yeah. Widow's really the only one that changes alliances.
And now we don't know where she is.
Yeah.
We don't know where like anybody
We need to talk about the ending,
but
too.
we know Okay, so we have current government official Avengers, which is Iron Man,
War Machine,
and Vision.
And that's it.
And that is it. And one of them is like heavily injured. Like he
Is
can't
that
walk really.
Yeah, that's... I mean, I guess
Right.
Thor and Hulk.
So here's the thing.
They didn't sign.
I guess
the body
that's true.
that the UN Council officially
made
recognizes as the Avengers, because Black Widow broke the Accords and disappeared.
Right.
Steve and his
Bucky's
side
out.
are all fugitives.
Ant-Man.
Black Panther didn't sign anything.
Black Panther didn't sign anything. He's in Wakanda. Spider-Man's not an Avenger.
Right.
The only governmentally recognized official Avengers are
Iron Man,
War Machine, and Vision. So, did Zemo win? His goal was to dismantle the Avengers.
Yeah,
he kind of won.
Except for the fact that because of that ending with like the phone, it's like, if there's... I think Zemo's thing was like, I want the Avengers like gone. Now the Avengers are just kind of in hiding.
I think thinks he won, but really
obviously they're not gone for good. But I think this kind of was a temporary victory for Zemo.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think that one of the biggest concerns that people had about this movie was that it would kind of end the same way that Dawn of Justice did, which is everybody teams up and puts aside their differences to fight the larger threat. That didn't happen.
I
mean, Captain America and Iron Man don't really make up.
Right, and
they're not trying to kill each other. They're not friends.
The repercussions for what happens next is it going to be all this intrapersonal...
It really changes the rest of the phase.
Sure. Right.
Because, I mean, we had a very, a good idea of what was going to happen, I feel like. Doctor Strange was going to join the Avengers that we knew.
And then, eventually Thanos was going to come and we were going to all fight.
And now that's,
Thanos.
I think... Nick Fury could be in Doctor Strange and recruit him for the government official Avengers.
Right.
That's
a good question. By Infinity War, who is the
Avengers?
Probably
Wasp will probably show up.
I think she's in the secret.
He'll be with Ant-Man. Or she'll be with Ant-Man.
Because Ant-Man's now also
Will she, though? Because let's think, Ant-Man and the Wasp, Paul Rudd shows up and is like, I'm underground, but you need to learn what to do. And she goes and takes something on, and then Nick Fury comes in and is like,
maybe.
Hey, whatever happens with Ant-Man, you guys can still be friends, but we need you as an official
Tony
member
Stark
of this
knows
team.
who they would be in.
Well,
talking,
so here's the thing. After Civil War in the comics, they did the Secret Avengers,
right?
Where a bunch of Avengers go underground and basically they're the Black Ops Avengers team. That looks like what's getting set up here as well. And unfortunately, because of the slate that's coming up, there's no time for a Secret Avengers movie. I'd love to see one, but I think half of the Avengers, working underground, the other half working in the light of day on official government authority. I think this is kind of the best possible ending for Civil War because everybody gets their way. The government gets some oversight over the Avengers, but they still retain some autonomy.
Yeah.
So I think there are going to be two separate Avengers teams that are starting to maybe work together. And then in Infinity War, everybody will kind of come out of the woodwork.
Yeah.
So let's talk about what we didn't like about the movie.
Yeah.
Okay, well, it's a Captain America movie, so I know that. It's like, my complaint isn't really huge. It's just my little complaint.
Yeah. Well, none of us have huge complaints.
Yeah, it's just, I gave it a 9.5 when we saw it initially, and
Right.
it has not changed. Vision, I felt could have been used a little bit more. Same with War Machine. They just both weren't in it that much.
Yeah.
I think Vision was in it a little, like, I think Vision was used a little bit more than War Machine, actually.
Yeah, I think
out about
especially with injuring War Machine and making him like this big part of the movie. Yeah, I agree. I think that could have been a little bit bigger.
I think injuring someone on Cap's side might have been, but I know it was for Tony, but since we were following people more through Cap's side because it's a Captain America movie, that would have been a little bit more effective. Like if Falcon had that done to him, I feel like that would have been a little bit better story plot. Dramatic action wise.
Sure.
But maybe not though. That was just my like very small one complaint in addition with the one that I had last time with the non-spoiler review.
Okay. Jeremy?
Mine I think stays the same from the non-spoiler review of this movie felt a little crowded for me.
Yeah.
And they did justice to every single character that was in it, but having I don't even know the total amount of Avengers or superheroes that were in it.
Yeah.
Having so many people and having to do so much with all of them, which you need to do in a movie like this, and they did almost flawlessly. Just the fact that there were so many to begin with, I started to be like, okay, there's just so many superheroes in this movie.
I get what you're saying. I still disagree with you, but I do understand what you're saying.
Well.
Right.
Especially that I think they mapped out where every single character was and how they felt so flawlessly. So that's why I see what you're saying, but I don't agree.
I agree that they did as well. But again, the whole thing with like Vision and War Machine, it's like, did you really need every single person with the exception of
Civil War?
And if it was an Avengers movie, then my complaint would be bigger because I feel like everyone should have more of an equal role.
That's a good point. Right.
But
I think as an
Captain
Avengers
America movie.
as an Avengers movie, there were some really underused people here. As a Captain America movie, it wasn't about that.
Right. So here's maybe where my thing comes in is. It's a Captain America movie. Why do we have all these people in it in the first place?
Because it's Civil War.
I know. But why is it Captain America Civil War? And why isn't it just the next Avengers movie is Civil War?
Because I think it did focus a lot on Captain America. It made it very personal for him.
Yeah. Right. And I agree. I just, again, there being so many people in this movie, I was like, okay, also Vision should be able to take out like all of you in the airport scene, and he really kind of doesn't do much.
Well,
they have Scarlet Witch. They have Scarlet Witch.
Yeah, and I get that he gets conflicted
her...
about. I think it's a more personal thing where he's like, I don't really want to hurt any of these people.
That too.
I think it's that too. But also, Scarlet Witch can take him.
Yeah,
down.
But she didn't in the airport scene. In the airport scene, she didn't.
Because people don't want to really. I mean, certain characters don't want to really hurt each other.
No,
minus Black Panther.
The airport scene was not a fight to the death.
It was a fight because
it was Tony's team trying to stop Captain America's team from leaving.
Right. Yeah. And then my other complaint, and this gets has to do with the stakes of not killing someone, because we all thought someone was gonna die. We had the debate of who's gonna die. I think paralyzing War Machine rather than frankly just having him injured, having him hospitalized, and then maybe him falling into a coma and not getting out of it and dying that way.
Yeah.
Not like immediate death, but I think having a death in this would have really, really helped. Because the thing is, in all the other Marvel movies, is we've had these stakes, and I felt that
there were tons of stakes in here.
No, and there were, but I felt that where they were pushing to get to a death, and they didn't get there.
I didn't feel that way. I also think using that no one died, I didn't feel like that was missing at all. I think though, in the bigger picture though, people will die in Infinity Wars, and I think that would be a way bigger. Because if you look through all the characters that could have died, you don't want the original Avengers to die.
Right.
You want them to be there for the final big Infinity battle. You don't want Scarlet Witch to die because we just met her.
Right.
Hawkeye, no, we just really got to know him in Age of Ultron.
I frankly would have been fine if
He's
he
one of
had
the
died.
original
And he's one of the
Avengers. To Addie's
originals.
point, I agree. I think
Vision's too strong.
and this was our main discussion in episode 2 or 3 of this.
Is who's
was-
gonna die in Civil War.
Who should die in Civil
yeah.
War.
Yeah.
And I think my
Who's
argument was Hawkeye's family.
Right. I
And-
think
and-
I said Captain America.
Right, and okay, Hawkeye's family, clearly that was a heartless argument. I don't
Right.
actually believe that. But the reason I said that back then was because I don't think any of the Avengers should die in Civil War, because that cheapens Infinity War.
Well, they didn't, so.
And they did it, and I think that's
Yeah.
smart. Now, what I will
agree.
say,
I
though,
don't.
what I will say is that I would have been annoyed that nobody died if they had given us a fake out death, and they
Yes.
didn't.
That is true.
And especially
If
putting...
War Machine had been, you know, he it looks like he's killed, but at the end it revealed
He
that he's
comes
not.
back.
No, he's injured. The very next scene, we know that
He's
he's
in
okay.
PT.
And it's also that they put it in the trailer, and that's what was the first thing that I was like, okay,
Right.
when we see this happen in the movie, he's not dead.
Right.
They wouldn't do that, because, I mean, I think if they had a death in Civil War, it would be one of the biggest plot points,
Right.
which they didn't need. They already had so much going for them that was already so flowing together pretty well.
I mean, they did the
Yeah,
same thing
that's
with Winter
fair.
Soldier when they showed Nick Fury's death
Right.
Yeah.
And
in the
then-
trailer, and so you knew it wasn't going to stick. But they still did the fake out, where for 20 minutes Captain America
Right.
thought he was dead, even though nobody in the audience was fooled.
yeah.
They didn't do that here, which is
wonderful. Like,
that's
I
what
think that-
keeps it from being
No,
a weakness.
I would have. I think. And again, this is so nitpicky because I love this movie and I don't know where it would go, and this is why I don't write for Marvel.
Right.
I would have liked to see a death that wasn't Howard Stark, like the parents
but
or the
getting to that, you talk about you want emotional stakes, and yeah, I know that the easy, obvious way to add emotional stakes is to have somebody die.
Right.
But I
they
mean,
made it
the
more
way
difficult for themselves by not doing that.
sure, but the way that Tony said he killed my mom.
yes
When Steve is like,
Yes.
come on, it wasn't him. He wasn't in control of
and I was
himself.
like he killed
And Tony's just like, I know, but he killed my mom.
right, and back to again RDJ's acting on that.
Right.
It's just
That was so good.
so sad.
And it didn't need an Avenger to die to make that an emotionally
Yeah.
heart-wrenching scene.
That's fair.
Your complaint?
Sure. So my weakness, a lot of people, I mentioned this in in our non-spoiler review, but now I can actually get into my problems with it. A lot of people saying they didn't like Zemo. Wholeheartedly disagree. I love Zemo.
He was so good.
And I think that they're setting him up to be a villain for the future of the Avengers. Because now he's this masterful, brilliant tactician who hates the Avengers. I can easily see him being a puppet master behind any MCU movie going forward.
There are no strings on me.
Except
Sorry.
there are.
Yeah,
Not on Ultron.
exactly.
He has lots of strings.
There are
He's
tons
got
of
them
strings,
all.
and Zemo's holding them. I
Right.
could easily see a Masters of Evil. I could
Yeah.
easily see a Thunderbolts. I can see Zemo putting together a team
Right.
of, Abomination and other villains that we've forgotten about. I can see all of this happening.
Sam Rockwell.
Sure, yeah,
Kinda
Justin
thing.
Hammer comes back,
Yeah.
Abomination comes
Oh, yeah.
back. Like, I'm not saying that will happen. It could.
It could.
And Zemo was the perfect guy and
Right.
and played perfectly.
Yeah.
However, I think that his plan was actually fairly straightforward. He hated the Avengers. He wanted to tear them apart by using Hydra intel leaked by Black Widow
Right.
to prove and show Tony that Winter Soldier killed his mom.
Right.
Tears the Avengers apart from the inside. It's great. Simple enough plan. Maybe a little convoluted. Then they added the misdirect
the
about the
Winter
other
Soldiers,
Winter Soldiers.
yeah.
Yeah.
And, okay.
I mean, I
The
guess
other-
I got 5 deaths in this movie.
Right. Well, that's the thing. Like, the other Winter Soldiers, cool concept.
Great. They're flashback scenes of them in the
Right.
cages,
The
like
fighting
and Bucky can't handle it, and I was like, wow, that's
Cool
Scary.
concept.
yeah.
But they did fucking nothing with it.
They just
Yeah.
killed
They
them.
just showed them and immediately
They
killed
showed
them.
dead. No, well, I mean, they didn't even kill them with a fight. They
Right.
just
It
killed
was just
them in
like
their
they were
sleep.
like in jelly.
Yeah, they were
dead.
suspended.
They were
with-
solely there to add a fake threat.
Yeah. Yeah.
Steve and Bucky go to the
Russia
hideout in Siberia, I think, with the intention like, oh no, Zemo's going to reactivate these other Winter Soldiers.
Right, and
we
we're
have to
gonna
stop
a-
him.
Yeah.
and they show up and they're already dead. I think they either needed to cut them out entirely or have them set up for the future.
Yeah, so if they go there and they're just not in the tanks, and it's like, and then they have to deal with...
And Zemo's already taken them somewhere else. Right.
Yeah.
I think setting them up... I don't think they needed a larger role in this movie.
Yeah.
But they either needed to have a future to them or just be cut out.
Yeah.
Because they added nothing to the movie, and they just made Zemo's plan seem really confusing.
Yeah.
And because you're like, wait, does he want the other Winter Soldiers? No. Does he know about them? Does he care about them?
Right.
Is part of his plan to go and kill them? No. I mean, he does kill them because he doesn't want any more of them.
Right.
They have nothing to do with his plan.
Right.
Like, it's just a totally unnecessary aspect of Zemo's plan that makes his already sort of convoluted plan become a mess. And I think... for me, that's the only part that the more I think about it, the less I like it.
Right.
Every other minor nitpick I have, when I think about it a little bit more, like Crossbones, for example.
Yeah.
I think about Crossbones, and I'm like, okay, it's a shame to see him go, but
it
the
makes
way
sense.
the way they used him in this movie was really good.
And I think the same thing for me and all my little nitpicks. It's like...
Right. Okay, maybe there were too many characters,
but
really they were handled well.
Yeah.
Maybe we could have gotten more War Machine, but
maybe
it wasn't his movie.
Too much.
Yeah.
Right.
It's not we don't want to take away from Captain America.
This
is something that I cannot justify. The only thought I've had about it is that originally Civil War, before it was Civil War,
was
going to be a more direct follow-up to the Winter Soldier about Sam and Cap finding Bucky. And my guess is that this other Winter Soldier plot was a big aspect in the first draft of this script. As it changed to Civil War, they got smaller and smaller, and for whatever reason, they were never cut out.
Yeah.
Maybe there's a deleted scene that makes them more interesting.
I was going to say, there's probably a few deleted scenes
but I don't think so, because they never woke up in the present day.
Right.
Like, the only deleted scenes with them would be
flashbacks. Yeah.
So that was my big complaint.
Unless the deleted scene is Zemo goes in, wakes him up, and says, "I've got plans for you," puts him back to sleep, and then just shoots.
Right, like
that doesn't make
there's
any
no
sense.
Deleted scene that would have made it better. So I just they either should have been kept alive for the future, or taken out of the movie entirely.
My problem was if you had kept them alive for the future, you have to keep them alive for about 5 years down the road, because our next big thing, everyone knows Infinity Wars and Thanos is coming.
Right.
Right? You can't... And there's no room in any of the upcoming movies to have these 5 other Winter Soldiers. Like, you have to save that for, like, Captain America 7.
Right.
I mean, obviously not.
Well, I think the reason they were left in is because Cap and Bucky and the rest of Cap's team needed a reason to go to the Winter Soldier outpost in Siberia.
Yeah.
And the original reason, obviously, was the other Winter Soldiers. I just feel like they could have come up with a better reason, you know?
Yeah, to follow Zemo.
They could have just... Oh, we have a GPS tracker on Zemo. He's going there. We need to go find him. Like, it's something that simple. I just feel like that really should have been cut out. That was my only major complaint. Everything else was either super minor or just something that the more I thought about it, the less it bothers me.
Right.
Cool. Should we just talk about the after-credit scenes super quickly?
Yeah, let's talk about the post-credit scenes. So the first scene... or the one that we saw in our pre-screening, our advanced screening that we saw a few weeks ago.
Was in Wakanda.
Yeah. Well, actually, let's turn this into a discussion of the end of the movie and the post-credit scenes, because we've not talked about the Secret Avengers much yet.
Yeah.
We've mentioned it briefly, but so the Secret Avengers are basically set up in this movie.
Yeah.
Where Cap and his team are fugitives and they're underground, and there is no real resolution to that.
Right.
I thought that was brilliant.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then to have Bucky freeze himself again in Wakanda.
Yeah, it was great.
That made me so sad, though.
But
I love Bucky.
Yeah.
That also, though, that sets up his kind of like heart of gold that you need for Captain America, that if he's going to take over the mantle eventually, it's before this it was like, oh, he's just kind of like,
right.
We only know him from the first Avenger, because we don't know what he's like not mind controlled, really.
Right.
Now it's like, okay, we know you are completely for the good of the whole.
Right.
I will sacrifice myself.
So I think that the end, though, nothing really got resolved. We now have 2 separate Avengers teams, basically. One of them is the legit team. The other is kind of the underground team. It completely changes my expectations for Phase 3.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And then the scene in Wakanda, which, again, shows here's what's coming up in Phase 3, guys.
Yeah.
Get excited.
Look how awesome Wakanda looks.
I love
I'm
the
so
Wakanda
excited
scene.
for Black Panther.
I'm
so
And then the other scene,
excited.
there's really not much to talk about here.
just
It's
funny.
Spider-Man.
Yeah.
It's Spider-Man, though. We love Spider-Man.
Spider-Man.
Yeah, no,
Well,
and it was
Peter
great.
Parker.
It was one of those things where it was like, okay, we didn't see, like, Spidey was in and out, and then they did the rest of the movie, and it was like, oh, guys, right.
It was
Homecoming's
basically
coming.
like getting ready for both those movies. They're like,
Yeah.
you like these two new characters? Well, here's a little bit more
which
to
is
see what the next movie's going
What
to
a
be
post-credit
like.
scene should be.
Yeah.
Absolutely. All right, so let's give it a... Have your scores changed? I don't remember what I scored
I
it.
don't remember what I scored it either.
I
Okay, well then
do.
let's just rescore it for our Civil War, or for our spoilers review. We've had a few weeks. It's been a while. We've really had time to marinate on it.
Yeah.
Think about it. Addie, out of 10, how do you score it?
Still a 9.5.
Really? Not changing at all?
It held up. I mean, yes, it's not the perfect movie, but it is a perfect movie.
And I think the funny thing is, I think it's as close to perfect as we're ever gonna get. I really do.
I don't know. I don't think I like... the more I think about it, it's definitely in my top 3 Marvel movies. I don't think it's my number 1.
What would you put above it?
Winter Soldier and Guardians of the Galaxy.
I thought about Guardians of the Galaxy, but I care about these characters
And no,
more.
Guardians of the Galaxy had plenty of weaknesses too. I mean, its plot was not really that strong.
Well, yeah,
especially Ronan was a shitty villain.
Here's the question: are you scoring the ones you have the most fun watching, or the ones from like a?
I think like an
Right.
overall,
From
right?
from Guardian's standpoint, it is the one that I just enjoyed the most.
Right.
I think Winter Soldier still... It's tough.
Yeah.
Like I said,
Yeah.
I think I think it's a little bit of a better movie, but only barely. I'll go 8.75 out of 10.
Yeah. I mean, for me, this is Marvel's best movie.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna give it a 9. I think I'm bumping up to a 9 from what I scored it earlier.
Welcome
Because
to
I
the 9.
really, the thing is, I really don't think we're ever gonna get anything better than this.
I'm not gonna say that because I want to be hopeful and think that they could
Yeah.
make the perfect movie. You little narcissistic.
You mean
Not-
pessimistic?
Yeah, pessimistic.
There we go.
It was just an S word.
Just yeah, but and this is for me, like, there's that one point of growth to perfection from this movie that I
Right.
really hope we're gonna get,
I
which is
agree.
why I'm not going for like 9.5 or 10.
Yeah, I'm totally the same way.
Yeah.
But overall, I think it's safe to
overall.
say that we loved this movie.
Yeah,
and,
for sure.
And yeah, I think we can all agree it was your number 1, my number 2.
I hope
maybe
you've
3.
seen the movie by the time that you're watching this.
Yeah, we did that in the beginning.
Yeah.
If they're watching through, some people like this.
I'm just still
Some
saying.
people read the end of the book before the beginning, and I don't understand.
That's
but
true.
whatever floats your boat.
So if you haven't seen it and you've watched this review anyway, now that you
Go
know
see
everything that happens, go see it. It's amazing.
If you have seen it,
Go see it again.
Yeah.
I'm going
'Cause
to.
we all will be going and seeing it at least 2 or 3 more times.
Yep.
With that being said,
I'm gonna
guys,
spend so much money on this movie.
thank you so much for joining us for this special episode of MCUEX. I'm Doug Herring. Make sure you're following the MCU Exchange at the MCU Exchange on Twitter or just MCU Exchange on Facebook, and check MCUExchange.com for all your updates regarding the MCU.
Yeah, I'm Jeremy Stewart. You can find me Twitter, Instagram, Jeremy_Stewart. And I know there are a few people who I owe conversations to about this movie, and those will happen.
And I'm Addie Bree Hayes. You can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Addie Bree. So, yeah.
Great.
Thanks for joining
Thanks,
us, guys.
guys.
We'll see you next week.
Bye.